Today on Let's Talk Crimes, we're going to learn a little bit about leaving the scene of an accident. What happens if you do and why you shouldn't.
Welcome all to Let's Talk Crime. I always love your questions. They get tougher as you go on. Leaving the scene of an accident. It's a Florida statute. Almost every single state has a statute that prohibits that. When it comes to statutes like this, I'm going to begin by reading you the statute number. The reason why I do that before I explain, because I encourage all of you to go to the Florida statute of your state or whatever state you live in and look at the exact language. So for Florida, it's statute 316.061. But let me tell you about the general language. Practically, anytime that a driver has an accident, he has to stop and provide information to the other driver. The information that has to be provided is name, address, registration information, and driver's license. That's actually the statute. Anytime you have an accident, you have to stop and provide information. A lot of people are not aware of that. They think that it requires that you call the police officer. Sometimes it does, but that's the general statute. And the statute is called leaving the scene of an accident with property damage. It's a misdemeanor in the state of Florida. And I think in most states, it's a misdemeanor.
And what happens if the other driver isn't there?
There are times when you have an accident and there is no driver of the other vehicle present. This is something that commonly happens in parking lots. If the driver is not there, you should try to look for him. If it's in a parking lot of a retail store, for example. But if the driver does not appear, then you are now required to call law enforcement. I have seen cases where people have opted to just get the information that they're supposed to provide, write it down, and leave it in the window. That generally does not work unless the other driver acknowledges it, which if you got arrested, that means that he did not. So I always say if there's no human being on site, you must call law enforcement and report it.
Okay, and now I want to ask you this. What if I leave the scene of an accident and someone, maybe their life is in danger, maybe someone died. Is there a difference?
Let me tell you the difference about the statute. That's actually a very good question. I told you the misdemeanor statute, which is leaving the scene of an accident with property damage. But I'm going to tell you now the one that you posed is the leaving the scene of an accident with great bodily injury. That's the next one that follows. That is a felony. There's 3 felonies. Leaving the scene of an accident with injury, leaving the scene of an accident with great bodily injury, and leaving the scene of an accident that results in death. Those charges, folks, are felonies. They have serious consequences. They're charges that as defense attorneys, we hate to try them before jury. Juries hate it when individuals have accidents, somebody's hurt, and they leave the scene. Specifically, I want to mention to you the leaving the scene of an accident resulting in death. Unfortunately, it happens a lot, and it's punishable in the state of Florida by up to 30 years, and it's not unheard of to get the 30 years.
Wow. And I'm sure, in a bad accident, people freak out, and sometimes that's their first instinct is just to run.
Sometimes these statutes that we talk about in Let's Talk About Crimes are things that when they happen, you've never given it any thought. That's why I hope this program helps, so you can have it in your mind. You don't have to be driving around thinking you're going to have an accident, but you got to give it some thought, because you're correct. When people have accidents, especially the bad ones, you go into a state of shock. Sometimes people leave the scene. I've seen this many times. When they get a hold of themselves again, they make a U-turn and they come back. And it may be a little bit too late. So you have to think about this. And my suggestion is, whenever you have an accident, think about it. Stop. You have to stop and go to the other car. You walk to the other car, because if you walk to the other car, you will know if that person has bodily injury or not.
All right, this next question, I think it's really important because I'm sure a lot of us have come across a situation. But what happens if I hit a car in a parking lot and then I leave? What are the consequences?
That's the actual language of the statute. You crashed the vehicle, you created property damage, because property damage is very difficult for you to assess. Anytime you tap another property, it could reasonably says it's property damage. You did not provide information because nobody was there. You left. So you just committed a misdemeanor, leaving the scene of an accident with property damage.
Wow, that's...
And it happens a lot in parking lots. Let me tell you something that's more interesting before you go on. The state has to show knowledge. What does that mean? That means that to prove that in a trial, the state has to show that you had knowledge that you had an accident.
Wait, but how can you not know you were in an accident if you crashed your car?
I kind of knew you were going to ask that. That's common too. That's a parking lot scenario. It happens with the parallel parkings. People sometimes are trying to parallel park. Now we have the cameras. For years we did not. And you accidentally tap the car in the back. You swear that you had no damage. Somebody's there with a phone, or maybe the driver saw you as he was walking up, got the tag, called it in, and that's how it happens. You don't know. Sometimes you don't know. Yeah. You tap the car.
How severe can the consequences be?
That's a misdemeanor. If I'm going to tell you by the letter of the law, misdemeanor, as I said in the other episodes, punishable up to a year. It's not realistically going to happen. I always say that in this program we talk about reality, but you might end up with a fine, and you might have to end up paying restitution to the other driver for whatever amount he says that it costed him.
Right. All right. Well, I think that's about it for the basics of leaving the scene of an accident.
It was a good episode. This charge really, if we're gonna go in depth, it requires more episodes. Leaving the scene of an accident, folks, it's a serious charge. People go to jail for it all the time. The body, if you see blood, if you see that the cars were very damaged, you need to stay in the scene, because you cannot assess if there's injury or not. You're not going to be able to. So your safest call is just stay there. I hope you guys enjoy this. Never get arrested, please. As always, if you have any questions or specific issues that you want discussed, email us at letstalkcrimes@gmail.com, and we'll try to accommodate you.
What you gonna do when they come for